everyone, and welcome to the Google Workspace Security Overview, where we'll discuss encryption and data protection with 66 Degrees and our loved partner, Virtru. Thank you so much for everyone's time in joining. We'll start out today with a quick introduction on 66 Degrees, another introduction on Virtru, our encryption partner. We'll discuss the shifted data, Centric security, and we'll cover use cases and a live demo from the Virtru team. And following that, we'll go to a brief closing. A little bit of an intro on ourselves. My name is Kevin Costello. Some of you might know me. I am a strategic customer success manager here at 66 Degrees with a focus on Google Workspace. And I interact mainly with Virtru on the security side of things with regards to encryption, which is a highly important need from most all of our customers. A little bit more about 66 Degrees. We are Google's preferred partner for enterprise AI transformation. We have over 25% of Google's agentic AI work within Gemini Enterprise. We have over 350 technical experts across AI, ML, application development, cloud engineering, data analytics, solution consulting, and managed cloud optimization. We also have over 600 certifications within Google GCP and covering things like AI, ML, cloud engineering, DevOps, and workspace administration. To that, we have over 1,000 successful transformation projects delivered to enterprise brands for the cloud, data, and AI initiatives. Another thing I'd like to call out is 66 Degrees was awarded Google Cloud's Partner of the Year for both 2025 and 2024, achievements that we are very proud of here as an organization. A little bit more about 66 and how we approach businesses and problems as a whole. We pride ourselves in obsessing over the clients and getting involved with our clients directly to understand needs and concerns and challenges that you're experiencing. That type of partnership is integral to be able to overcoming those challenges. We also commit to our craft, technically speaking, which is super important with being front of the industry with regards to solution functionality, technology, etc. And we win together. We do pride ourselves on teamwork with both our providers and our customers. With a lot of these large-scale initiatives and transformations, it does take a village to get things done successfully. And in doing so, you do need to be resilient and adaptable, which is another thing that we pride ourselves in. Being able to adjust, change, and enhance as you're moving through processes is super important. And that gets into being able to thrive through a challenge. So high level, that's us at 66 Degrees. We are very proud of the work we do, and we're also proud of our partners at Virtru who specialize in encryption. They've been fantastic to work with. We love the solution, and so do our customers. So with that, I'll hand it on over to Alexis for an intro from Virtru.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin, and thanks to the 66 team for having us here today. I am Virtru's channel development manager. So I'll be kind of teeing us up here today, talking a little bit about data-centric security specific to Google Workspace. And then I'll kick it over to my colleague, Tony Rosales, who's a senior solutions engineer on our team for a live demo so we can see these solutions in action. So to kind of tee us up here, I want to start with, the big picture, right? Like the big idea here is that the way that we think about data security is changing. For a long time, security was built around the perimeter. You were protecting identities and devices and networks and applications and trying to keep sensitive data inside control environments, as well as control who has access to those environments. And those layers are definitely important. But the reality is teams are going to need to share sensitive information every day, often with people outside of their organization. So the goal can't just be to stop data from moving. And the better goal is to help the business share information securely with the right controls in place. So that's the big shift to data-centric security. That's where Virtru is going to help. Instead of protecting the system where the data starts, we're going to protect the data itself. So access controls can travel with the data. This slide shows where Virtru fits into the broader, security ecosystem. Most organizations already have really strong tools for identity and endpoints and networks, and you'll see that here. And those are all really important, but there's still a question that comes up all the time, which is what happens after sensitive information is shared? That could be a file sent to a client or a document shared with, say, with outside counsel or information exchange with a vendor. Once it leaves that environment, you still need that control. So that's where Virtru is going to come in and help. We're going to add protection at the data layer, and we're going to help protect the information itself with encryption and access controls and policy so that organizations can keep control even after the data has been shared externally. So Virtru's not here to replace the security investments customers already have. We're going to extend those investments that you've already made to the data itself, where collaboration's actually happening in real time. And Virtu's really been focused on this problem for, well over a decade. And today we have more than 6,000 organizations who trust us to do that. You'll see customers here. There are several verticals, and some may resonate with your daily workflows, some may not. They all have different types of sensitive data, but the challenge between all of them, like the big connector, is very similar, which is that the people need to share information to get work done, and the organization needs to make sure that that information stays protected when it's shared. So that's why Virtu's here, to make secure sharing easier while giving the organization stronger control behind the scenes. And before I kick it over to Tony, just to see, what this looks like in action, a big part of the Virtru approach is that while we're going to help protect sensitive data, we're not going to ask users to completely change how they work, because we know that people find a way. They work around things. So that starts with Virtru and tools that, your organization's using every day, whether it's Gmail or Google Drive, whether it's emails or files, or let's say you're collaborating with people outside of your organization. Users can protect that data without disrupting their workflow. And I'll note, if your organization's already using Google Workspace client-side encryption, or maybe you're evaluating it, Virtru can serve as an external key management layer as well. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tony. He's going to show a couple of workflows, including that file sharing piece, Virtru for Gmail, as well as a new solution called Virtru Collaborate. So Tony, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Alexis. And actually, before we jump into that, I just want to kind of talk about a couple of technical notes. If we could go to the next slide there. Perfect. Yeah. So kind of like Alexis was explaining, Virtru's mission is to protect the data specifically. And that's going to be completely different than a lot of other solutions out there, which are more perimeter based or are going to be much more network based or something in between, right? Envelope encryption for email, S-MIME, things like that. Virtru actually has much more of an object level encryption, right? So we are actually wrapping those objects in AES 256-bit encryption keys. So what you're seeing here on this slide is basically an explanation of the fact that we can go ahead and protect that sensitive data the same as it exists within your environment. And we are able to keep that data protected as it leaves your environment because we're protecting the data. We're not extending your network. We're not doing anything that is going to somehow change the way those things operate. So, as we said, what we say at Virtru is that the future is granular, right? So the idea is you can build up your typical network protection stack, and Virtru is going to fit in with that because the idea here is that the security is actually going to travel with the data itself, powered by an open standard called TDF. And I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen just so we can see what this looks like in my view. All right, so hopefully you can see that now. It looks like you can. So what we're seeing here is basically the plugin for Gmail. And so standard Gmail window, right? Nothing really strange about this. The only thing you're going to see is a little ribbon across the top where I can actually toggle Virtru on. Once I do that, it's going to go ahead and encrypt the body of this message. At this point, I could actually still edit this draft if I needed to. And you're going to notice that any attachments that are present are going to have that little .tdf at the end that does stand for trusted data format, as we just referenced before. Now, it is as simple as hitting secure send, but I will point out before I do that there's some additional options we can add. But for now, just for demonstration purposes, I'll just hit send. And so what we do here now is that this message is encrypted. Virtru is actually able to encrypt that message at the object level and let the normal email flow take place just like it would with any other message. I'll show you what it looks like here to the person that just did the sending. Notice it has to be decrypted to even be read right in line. And again, that person is still going to have control over the access of this information, as well as any additional options they may choose. From a recipient's perspective, we are going to see what this looks like to open up. So this message is going to come in completely branded and colorized for the organization in question. And the idea here is this is the actual message coming from the actual email server that it originated from. No portals, no redirects. Everything is kind of what you would expect to see of any other email. When I click on unlock message, the first thing that's going to happen is I'm going to be asked to validate who I am. No username and password needs to be created with Virtru. So what we are actually leveraging is existing federated IDs, as well as one-time verification links or codes. So in this case, I'm going to say, yep, that is me. We are the system is smart enough to recognize that this is a free Gmail account, so they're going to offer us the ability to sign in with Google's federated ID system. And if I didn't have that, if this was something else like a Yahoo account or something, more proprietary, it's going to give me the ability to send a verification email. In any event, this is how we're going to validate that I am who I say I am, so I can actually decrypt the message. I'll click through that OIDC screen. And now I'm able to actually decrypt the email that was sent to me. So now that message gets decrypted. I can read it in plain text. I could download or view those attachments as needed. And I can respond securely as I might need to do. So as I promised earlier, what we're going to look at real quick before we jump into a different product is the ability to not only send messages that are encrypted, but to actually do some additional things. One of the keys of Virtru's trusted data format and being able to add a policy to the objects themselves is the ability to go ahead and hit security options here. And now I can disable forwarding. I can set an expiration date. I could actually add a watermarking, which is going to disable download, print, and copy for any attachments. And I can go ahead and set something called persistent protection on that file, which means it's going to be permanently encrypted and we'll always need Virtru to open. These are really important things if we want to make sure we maintain ownership of data that's being sent outside of the environment. So all of these options are present, but again, it doesn't necessarily need to be turned on by the user and can also be turned on via admin policy, meaning that they're going to happen to this message whether that user intends them to or not. Switching gears here, we're going to talk a little bit about what a file-centric workflow would look like. So the idea is this has all been about email and everything's going to be within the confines of an email message, both threading messages back and forth, a conversation that might or may not have attachments. With Secure Share, this is much more of a modern file-centric approach. So we've got two versions of the ability to kind of share and collaborate on files. One is going to be very transactional, that is Virtru Secure Share. And the other is going to be Virtru Collaborate, which is going to allow you to set up workspaces so that you can put files in said workspaces and invite people to collaborate with you in those environments. First and foremost, I'll show you Secure Share and what this looks like. We have the ability to send information out, like so. We also have the ability to request information. So we can send an email notification that is going to allow that person to send information back, which I'll show you in a second here. But let's go ahead and start with the sending information. So I can go ahead and reach directly into Google Drive if I wanted to, or my desktop, or I could actually go into Google Drive itself and say, you know what, I want to send out this document, and go ahead and click on Secure Share here and hit Encrypt. Both workflows are just fine and are very kind of realistic for the environments that they're going to live in, right? Some customers might just be in Google Drive all day and just want the ability to shoot things out from there. Other customers might want to have a web app open on their browser or perhaps even on their desktop, as you see here. It doesn't really matter to us. We are just giving you the ability to have that at your fingertips, however you choose to work. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and grab a couple of files directly from my computer. Let's see. Why don't I grab a couple of versions of an Excel file that I want to send? And the first thing to note here is that we're taking a secure copy of that file from Drive and putting it into Secure Share. And it is touching the Secure Share application in an encrypted state. So Virtru never sees any information in plain text. That is also true of the email system as well. So this information is all going to be fully encrypted before it touches anything having to do with Virtru. We'll hit Next. And from here, we can add very similar security options. Again, expiration dates, watermarking, persistent protection. For this example, let's turn on watermarking. And then we'll hit next, and we'll decide who we're sending this information to. Maybe I'll send it to an entire team. Maybe I'll send it just to an individual. Maybe I'll send this to an individual on behalf of a team. And where that becomes very important is if we're working on certain projects where we're actually collaborating with several people, we can still have that transactional flow, but it can be with groups of people as opposed to individuals. Maybe I'll add a subject line or not. I might need to add additional messaging for the files that I'm sending, and that messaging might be secure where I need to actually encrypt it. You have all of these options. We'll hit share. When we hit share, now at this point from this client, from the web client, we are now uploading that information to Virtru's secure and encrypted storage. We are FedRAMP moderate authorized. And so what that basically means is that we meet a certain set of criteria posted by NIST that are going to go ahead and make sure that your information is secured at the highest level. Let's see here. Okay, so we sent that information out. We have a confirmation it's successfully sent. If we need to manage that in kind of later on, we do have the ability to come back in here to history, grab additional shares that we've sent out before, edit them, view them, whatever we need to do. This is kind of our place to manage this information. Again, from the recipient's perspective, we are able to go ahead and go over here to the email. We are going to get a notification that this person sent us information. We can even see the names of the files. Again, very clear who it's coming from. The company is all branded and colorized. And then we're simply going to hit view files. You're going to notice now that I'm going to go directly into Secure Share. Now, that is not because Secure Share is less secure. It is because I've already authenticated to the Virtru platform. And so if that is the case, that key or that token rather is still active within our browser session. And therefore, we are able to recognize that you are still who you say you are until that browser session closes or expires. So now I can come in here and view these files. Notice that there's no download button. That is because we added that watermarking. So for instance, if I open up one of these files in Secure Reader, I am able to read the information, but across the information is going to be that watermark. So as you see here, I can see the numbers very clearly in all the graphs, but it is going to be watermarked for that recipient, right? It is dynamic, and any recipient who's viewing it, it will be their information. Let's see. So that's kind of what it looks like to send. To receive, it's pretty similar. I'll just kind of grab the link. So again, you can send out that notification, but I'm just going to copy this link here. Let's say we were already in a group chat or Slack or something like that, and I'm just sending them a link to be able to send me some information. It is literally that simple. So if I click on this and open said link, I'm going to be presented with a very simple screen to send information as asked for. Again, branded and colorized, but I can go ahead and do that. So I can grab a file off my desk, say, you know what? Yep, that's the file I need to send. I will have the same ability to add additional security as needed. Maybe I turn these off as an organization because I don't want people sending information in to turn them on. I have that option. And again, nothing to do here because I was requested to send that information, not the other way around. When I hit share, as a person external, I'm still going to get a confirmation letting me know rather that this information has been sent successfully. Awesome. And that is pretty much it for Secure Share. The final thing that I'm going to show you today is our newest product, Virtru Collaborate. So what this does is, again, same type of file-centric workflow, but what it's going to have, or going to allow us to do rather, is be able to set up workspaces to put files in. And then at that point, we can invite or remove participants to that workspace. So it's much more of a permanent location for files to be kind of stored, right? Think repository, enclave, whatever word kind of fits your scenario. But what we've got here is a couple of different workspaces that have already been created. Some I've created, some I've been invited to, and they all are going to kind of look pretty similar. But to create one, you simply hit add, you name it, maybe add a description, and then invite people. It's pretty straightforward. So for instance, I'm going to go ahead and click on this Project Phoenix one here. And inside of it is going to be some sensitive data. So anyone that is a member can see this. I could go in and edit this access list and add additional people on the fly. Maybe I'll add someone external. And now those additional people can see. It's very easy to go back in and say, actually, you know what? I didn't mean to add that person, so I'm going to remove them. Pretty straightforward. The data is going to always kind of live right here. You are able to download it. You are able to preview it. So for instance, if I just want to see what this state of Washington policy is, it's simply going to open up right here in the same pane of glass. Coming later this year, you will actually be able to edit these documents, right? So we're talking about Word files, Excel spreadsheets, things like that are native and editable documents. You will actually be able to do that. Let's see if there's anything else to see here. I don't really think so. Awesome. One last thing to show actually is what it looks like to be invited to a workspace. And again, branded colorization lets you know who the owner is, what the name of the workspace is, and you can simply hit View Workspace. All right, and that is all I have today for you from the live demo perspective.
Well, thanks, Tony. And I think, three things really stood out when we saw that workflow from beginning to end. The first is going to be security, which we've already talked a bit about. The second is going to be the advanced visibility and control, like the ability to expire or revoke access or watermark attachments, see who has access to the data when, and be able to adjust that in real time. The third is going to be the ease of use. So it's not just going to be easy on the recipient within whatever their workflow is. It's going to be easy on the recipient who needs to access that data in real time. So I'm just going to end it here with a good shared customer between both 66 Degrees and Virtru, which is Zelf. They're in the healthcare space, so they need a secure way to share sensitive PHI and other sensitive data with customers. And they didn't want to slow down their team's collaboration. So they leverage Virtru Secure Share to now protect PHI and other sensitive data, to share really large files with that file transfer motion Tony just walked us through, and then work with customers across different technology environments. And that last piece is pretty important because not every external recipient that your organization is working with is going to be using the same tools as you. So Virtru helps secure sharing easier on both sides, for the team sending the information and then for the customer receiving it. So to wrap up here, I think the main takeaway is, Google Workspace is going to help your team collaborate. It's where your users live and breathe every day. They're used to using it. Virtru is going to help make that collaboration more secure when sensitive data needs to move outside of the organization. So whether that's sending emails through Gmail or sending files securely or creating one of those controlled workspaces for that external collaboration with Virtru Collaborate that Tony was showing us, the goal is going to be the same: to keep work moving while giving the organization stronger control over its data. So with that, I want to thank the 66 Degrees team for having us on here and Kevin for hosting. And if any of this sounds familiar, reach out to your 66 Degrees rep and they can get you in touch with Virtru. But with that, thank you, and I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Thank you so much for the excellent presentation, Alexis and Tony. We love it. With regards to Virtru, I have personally worked with a number of customers within the healthcare industry who utilize it heavily, and it does exactly what it needs to do. And Virtru is leading the industry in regards to encryption security. So thank you so much. You tell the story very, very well. And hopefully our attendees here can find some new ideas and use cases and ways they could maybe deploy Virtru within their own organizations. Virtru awarded 66 Degrees their Platinum Partner of the Year award recently, and we work with them very, very closely. So if you do have questions with regards to functionality or technology, please let us know. We're always happy to help, as well as the Virtru team. They've been fantastic partners, and we hope to connect you both here in the future. So please feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you for your time. And